Katie Bulmer is a wife, mom, and motivational speaker who encourages young women in their 20s, single, dating, preparing for marriage, and everything in between. Today, we have her on the WinShape Marriage podcast to talk about the lies that she sees young women believing about marriage, what she wishes she knew before getting married, and advice she'd give her younger self or other younger women from her 20 plus years experience married to her husband. It's a sweet conversation we know you'll enjoy. Katie, welcome to the WinShape Marriage podcast. We are so excited to have you on.
Oh, my pleasure is the first thing that comes to mind, and that's fitting. But yes, I'm so happy to be here. We love all things WinShape.
Yeah. So before we dive into more of our conversation, I'm curious, just tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what you do. Just give us a brief overview of Katie.
Sure. So my name is Katie. We currently live in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I say that everything I do on the internet is to be who I needed when I was younger. And so that is kind of looks like mostly I get to go to different colleges. I'm a speaker. Sororities actually specifically book me to come be a speaker for a lot of their events. So I get to speak to sororities. I get to have a podcast. I have a podcast called Truth for Your 20s where I serve as all the things I wish I knew when I was 20.
Right.
Social media. I love to do relatable and funny TikToks,
Yeah.
dropping truth bombs, all of that kind of stuff. And that kind of person who I needed when I was younger. I was a heartbroken and hungover sorority girl, and the Lord met me in that place. And I just try and serve, those young women and try and healthy dating advice is obviously a huge topic when it comes to who I needed when I was younger. And so I talk a lot about dating advice on the internet, on the podcast, all those places. So yeah, I'm thankful. And my husband and I are host couples now. I've been married 20 years. So we are a host couple at WinShape Marriage. Our kids have gone to WinShape camps, and we just absolutely love what you guys are doing and the spaces you're creating and the environments for facilitating healthy marriages. So I'm just excited that our worlds are colliding in all the best ways.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. And it might maybe seem a little counterintuitive, but I think what's cool about the conversation that we're going to get to have today is just kind of meshing some of those worlds. So talking about even some of that dating and premarital type content and just things that you might have wished you had heard prior to getting married. And then to your point now, you have been married for 20 plus years. So you bring some marriage experience to the table as well. So I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have today.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Let's do it.
Alrighty. So I know one thing that you talk a lot about on social media and just, in your speeches and on your platform is about comparison. And I'm curious, how have you seen that sneak into marriage? And maybe even in your marriage. So we're just going to dive in deep here right from the get-go.
Girl,
but how have you seen that? And yeah, how do you fight that?
Yes. So, I mean, like we said, diving in, but I would say the biggest thing that I see right now that I am talking about on the internet and stuff is the attack on marriage in general, because you see a lot of people do I even need to be married? And, women empowerment, which I'm in favor of, but then we get into attacking men, and that's no, we're both beautifully created, unique, and we serve beautiful purposes, and we help each other. And so it's when the pendulum swings one way or too far, then we become this big confused mess. And so I think that just this whole idea of why marriage is a beautiful thing and why this exists and why it's beautiful. And I think that we kind of live in this day and age where we all want, this late breaking scientific study found this new way to anti-age and this new fat burning, it's all brand new, it's all undiscovered and whatever. And I think that it would be interesting if it was the same idea of this ancient artifact we just discovered, the secret to marriage, this,
Right.
This scroll in ancient Egypt or whatever. And it's that the man shall leave his father and mother, and the two shall become one.
Yeah.
I'm wait, what? I thought, marriage relationships, it was all about me and how does this relationship make me better? And what can I get out of it? And, the money is for me, and the power, me. We have this such a self-absorbent culture, and we're all what's in it for me is the bottom line, really, even when it comes to relationships. And when we have this new, if you will, ancient scroll of you shall leave your I say you leave your family of origin. I don't mean like you never talk to your family of origin again,
Right.
but this whole idea of creating something new and creating one. These two selfish human beings are laying down themselves for this new, beautiful one. What is this one? This one is this idea of marriage, this idea of sharing, this idea of becoming less selfish, which is a daily learning thing.
Yes.
This idea of what does unconditional love look like? One in every form of the word and every form of the word. And how do you do that? Because we are selfish and like, well, I don't want to love when they quote, don't deserve it. You know what I mean? And we get into that too. Like, oh, well, it's hard to love them right now because they're being difficult. First of all, spoiler, we're all difficult human beings
Right.
at some point in the world. And so, yes, I have to love my husband when he's being difficult, but guess what? He gets to return that favor. And I probably give him more exercise in that than I give him. But anyways, so the point of that is to love when we always don't deserve it, to understand what this idea of becoming one looks like. And how do we do that? Well, we have an example. The most important man who ever walked the streets of this world, the highest of high kings, knelt down and washed stinky feet. He gave us the idea of serving each other. And just that little glimpse, even when we quote, don't feel like it, even when, love is hard, because it isn't all sunshine and roses. And love is a beautiful, sacrificial, learning to become unselfish thing. And when we don't feel like it, when this is hard, we look to the example of Jesus, and that's a beautiful thing. And that then we understand what unconditional love looks like. He gives us that glimpse of laying down our selfishness and picking up our cross. And that sounds like, oh, marriage is terrible. And like, no, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we get to like, oh my gosh, I loved you through that hard time. You loved me through that hard time. And look at us now. Like we went through, richer and poorer and sickness and health. And that's so true. And then you come out the other side of these hard seasons with this like mountaintop, and it's such a beautiful thing. But so many people I see give up when it's hard, or I want to just get out when I'm not quote feeling anymore, and that defeats the whole purpose of the two becoming one. So anyway, I have a lot to say about all of that, but hopefully that answers your question.
No, that's so good. I'm just sitting here thinking too, like, we get so sucked into this world of just comparison to, well, what does this marriage look like on social media? What is their marriage? What are they doing? Is there this new tool or thing? And I think what I hear you saying is like, it's not that some of those things are inherently bad, like, advice and wisdom. And obviously we live in a day and age where there's, TikTok videos and Instagrams and things that we can see with good information that's helpful. Yeah. But ultimately, it's like, let's bring it back to this old ancient scroll. Let's bring it back to the beginning. Let's bring it back to what Jesus says. Like, let's bring it back to there first. Yeah. So,
yeah, and having couples that you look to, that you not necessarily want to be like, but that it is true that we are lacking examples of good marriages. Like, where do we look? TV, probably not. Unfortunately, a lot of people may not have that example from their own parents or their own family, and so we are desperate for what does a healthy relationship look like. And so I would ask you, although you're never going to find a perfect one, especially young couples, seek out an older couple. Hey, can we go to lunch with you guys? Can we come over and have dinner? We'll bring a potluck. You'd be surprised how many people married 20 years plus. I would be delighted if a younger couple came up to me at our church, or whoever, just people that we might know somehow, like, hey, can we hang out? Absolutely. So I think that being able to hang out with couples who have had a little more years under the belt of doing this whole marriage thing would be super beneficial for younger couples.
It helps fight the comparison between like the younger couples around you when you're looking to older and wiser, for that matter, couples that are just walking the road ahead of you and have done it before, and just have done it with some more experience. Did you guys find when you were newly married, when you're thinking back, younger married, did you do that? Did you find a couple that you kind of wanted to walk with and kind of help have them mentor you guys?
Yes, and this was honestly blind luck and the Lord's provision.
Okay.
But I highly recommend it, and we kind of stumbled into it. But when we first got married, we were kind of just in this unique beautiful position where there was a lot of young couples in our church that were similar to us. We're all kind of getting married at the same time, having babies at the same time. And the Lord brought this sweet woman named Paula. Paula was actually a widow. She was, probably in her 60s, widowed, but she had a burden to help young couples. It makes me teary just thinking about it, how she took of her time and service, and she was like, let me invest in these young couples because she knows how sacred and how beautiful marriage is. And so this sweet woman opened up her home. Once a week, we had a K. Arthur Bible study, if that means anything to anyone listening, is the precept marriage. And she just dove in, like, it was deep dive of like, what does Leviticus say about marriage? What does this ancient, whatever, everything. And not only was that beautiful, just learning the foundations, if you will, but learning it with other couples that were on the same road as we were. And so we're learning from this woman, even though she was widowed, she was married for several years, obviously what scripture says about it, and then also learning it alongside other young couples who want the same thing. And happy to report, all of us are still married 20 some years later. And so, yes, like I said, I didn't really seek that out. It kind of landed on me. But if that, I highly recommend just seeking out some sort of version of that. Maybe that if you are the older person listening, like you definitely have service. If you're a widow, if you are divorced, you still have service. If that's a burden of yours, you can still 100% bless younger couples. If that's something laid on you, like all you have to do is open your home and get a study and just talk about it, and providing that environment for other young couples to learn together. I can't underestimate how powerful that was. Think about the generations she impacted by being willing to do that study. So it was very powerful.
Absolutely. And now that's just no telling how that is, even some of that wisdom that you learned is seeping into what you're doing now, right? And
True.
Speaking to younger women, it might not be younger couples necessarily, but younger women who are dating, who are, in that season of life. And so, it just is like a generational, to your point, it can be a generational impact as well.
Shout out to Miss Paula.
So I want to go backwards just a second. You kind of touched on this a second ago, but some of those lies that you think that social media is telling young couples. So, I heard you say some things like, like if you're not happy, you can just like, maybe even get out. I mean, that's something that you see, or you don't like, if they're not loving you well, like you don't have to love them well, or things like that. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm curious. You're on this world. You're in this world with some of these younger women. And so what are some of the things you've already said, but what are some of those lies that you might be seeing circulating around?
I saw a TikTok just the other day. It was one of those that went viral, and it was just a young girl and a selfie, and it said, older women, tell me what's the best dating advice you've ever had, or maybe it was marriage advice, whatever. But the number one comment was, get out at the first sign of unhappiness, and tons of likes and tons of comments. And I was like, oh my word. That is what we're telling young women, or young men for that matter. And listen, I am not here to say that, like, you should suffer through abuse, and there's
Right.
certainly extreme circumstances, but by and large, we're giving up. We're not understanding how sacred and beautiful, and not only that, like, what is on the other side of fighting for a good marriage. I read in a book it was just an example. It was actually the 20-something telling the story of her parents. So the 20-something was talking about how her mom left her dad when he was at his lowest point. He was struggling financially. He was depressed. He was drinking. He was just like in the lowest low, and like he just couldn't get his stuff together. And she was like, whatever, I'm out. Some 10 to 15 years later, this young woman's in her 20s, and her dad is extremely successful, just killing it in all areas of life. And she says she felt like her mom left his worst years, but she missed his best years. And it was just such an interesting example of, what if that was a different script? What if it was like, yeah, that was terrible, but we struggled through it together. Yeah, it was like, honey, I love you, but get yourself up. We're getting out of the bed today. We are applying for jobs. Like, it is tough love. It is walking through the mud together. No one likes it, like, but it's life. We all have to go through the junk. And I think that God gives us a gift in marriage to do it together, to have a helpmate. And sure, there might be some fighting and screaming and scratching through the mud of life, but but it's real. Right now, we're kind of on this area of caring for our aging parents. We just moved my husband's mother closer to us, and it's a learning curve too. Like, what does this
Mm-hmm.
look like, and who does this, and who does that, and it's a new thing, and there is no manual of exactly what it is we do here. But I think that it's part of life, right? We're figuring it out, and we're struggling, but it's such a journey, right? And I can see us like, oh my gosh, look how frustrating that was, but look how far we've come. And there's so many, goodness, there's a million examples of financial struggles that we had when we first started, when we first got married. I mean, there's so many things that I can look back and say, oh my gosh, like look how we overcame that. And then
Mm-hmm.
the stories we can share, and then the memories, and I don't know. There's so many things I can imagine when we're in our 80s and be like, "Do you remember that time?" And it's sharing. It really is like sharing that life together, and how sad it would be to be like, "Oh, this is a hard season, so I'm out," and then losing all of those memories and losing all of that. I don't know. That it's so much more than just. Butterflies are great, like they are, but it's building a life together, and building memories, and building a foundation, and building a generation of something for your children to look to. And what does
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing look like? Because again, we're not seeing it on TV shows. And so what
Mm-hmm.
does this whole thing look like, and how do we walk through life together? I don't know. It's just so much more than leave when you are the first sign of unhappiness.
Right, right, right. And again, I'll reiterate exactly what you said too. We're not talking about the extreme circumstances
For
here.
sure.
We're not talking about abuse or neglect or something like that. And so, certainly, if that is your situation, then seek help immediately.
Yes.
But for the average, for the normal, when you're not talking about the extremes, there is hard. Like there's hard, there's
Yeah.
beautiful, and there's hard. And when you're in the hard, whether it's new, you're growing your family, a new baby, or you're going through infertility, or you're aging parents, or you have teenagers. I mean, all of those seasons bring challenges in and of themselves, whether it's a financial struggle or this or that. It's sticking by with your spouse and saying, like, grabbing their hand and saying, let's dig in our heels, let's do this together,
Yeah.
let's fight for one another, and fight for our marriage. And obviously seeking out tools and help, in whatever circumstance or situation that you're in, but being willing to put in the work and not just like dip out at the first sign of something that makes you a little uncomfortable.
Yes. And don't be shy to fight that. Don't be shy to ask for help, because fighting that on your own is just a million times harder than it needs to be. We have neighbors who are they had twins very early, so a lot of medical concerns. They were
Mm.
born preterm, and she is with child again.
Oh, wow.
So they just have their hands full, and but all that to say, like they have a village. They have a village around them of people, and
Mm-hmm.
and that's beautiful. And so, but especially when you're walking through hard times, I think it's embarrassing, or sometimes like people don't want to ask for help, but that's when you need the most. And so I would encourage, even if it reaching out to a friend, sharing this, and be careful too with your friends, because sometimes your friends are like oh girl, you need to get out of this, or like make sure you're seeking out friends who truly want the best for you,
Mm-hmm.
who you know want to give you biblical advice, who are in this for your long-term good, not just the moment. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my hot take.
So you do a lot of speaking and engaging with young women in their 20s. I assume some of those are just dating, but I assume some of those are engaged as well and are getting married. And so if you had to roll the tapes and think back to 20 years ago when you were getting married, even like the week before your wedding or the month before your wedding, what's something that you would tell yourself then or wish someone had told you then?
$1 million question. I would say kind of what we talked about is that to get a village. And we, again, I really just kind of fell into this by blind luck and the Lord's provision. But mentioning that the couples group that we were part of with Sweet Miss Paula, but also that friendship, those young couples that we were all a part of once we started having babies, we helped each other out. It was like, bring all the babies to my house on Tuesday so all of the moms can go grocery shopping, and then we'll alternate, and then I'll watch them the next Tuesday or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or maybe we would just all get together and have coffee while the kids run around and Cheerios are all over the house. But it was the best, most life-giving.
Mm.
I don't think I would have survived the diapers and those little people stages without my village.
Mm.
And I don't see that as often. There's so many people, I'm like, the only time they go out and have a date night is when the grandparents are around, and the grandparents might not even live in town, and so they're just struggling to keep it together and to never have time alone with their spouse, and or even just time by themselves to take a bubble bath or run errands without little toddlers throwing tantrums.
Right.
Listen, they're beautiful. We love the children, but we also love to have breaks from them.
Right.
And get a village. Don't be afraid to be the first to invite, hey, even if it's just one other mom friend. I'm speaking to women. Obviously, guys can do this too, but like, hey, on Tuesday, I say Tuesday, it could be any day.
Right.
Saturday, bring the kids over to my house, and then if you could do that again the following Saturday, work out something, be the one to invite it and start this conversation. I guarantee you will have other young couples be like, praise the Lord. Yes. Sign me up. Let's do this. It doesn't have to cost any money. It's just this is what our ancestors used to do. They lived on a bunch of land and they helped each other out.
Yep.
And I don't know why we went away from that.
Yeah. I was going to say, what would you say if someone's hearing that and they're like, wow, that sounds great. And like, I wish I could find that. How can I find that? It's like, what if you're the one that, starts it? Like, what if you're, pray for boldness and like ask the Lord to just put one other friend or couple in your path, and maybe you're the one that starts it.
100%, because there's probably not a long list of these type of groups that already exist. So yeah, you probably will have to be the one to start it. But think about, not only will it bless you, it will bless the other. You might be on a podcast 10 years from now talking about how it blessed your socks off. And so all you have to do is just say, meet another friend and invite them. And then maybe they can invite a friend. And we don't have to have, 30 people involved, just a few, but it would be such a gift. Even if it's just a neighbor and one other couple, switching off would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe different than what you've shared so far in our conversation, do you have a myth, like a marriage myth that you believed about marriage that you could totally bust open and be like, nope, that is not true?
Yes. So I don't think I would have said this out loud because it sounds stupid, but I think I probably believe this, and I know I see a lot of young couples believing this, and it's this idea of like, once we get married, any kind of problems we have will be gone. And again, I know that sounds stupid, but I see like, oh, well, once we get married, things will change. Or once we get married, of course, thankfully I didn't have this problem, but like I've even seen people, well, once I get married, he won't cheat anymore. Once we get married, we won't have these conversation issues or whatever it was. Listen, when you put on a dress and he puts on a tux and you walk down an aisle, it is beautiful. I am here for it. I love it. And I hope that you have beautiful pictures, but it is not magic. It is not like when you say I do, there's not this like beam from heaven that you transform. Like,
right.
It's cute. It's cute. We like to think maybe that happens in the movies. But it is two flawed human beings learning what they have been practicing. And so I would tell my younger self before she got married, well, what are the habits that you are working on now? Because you're bringing those into marriage. We're talking about money, hobbies, whatever it may be. Like I wasn't magically different when we got back from our honeymoon.
Right.
So that's a big deal with money. If we're talking about like, oh, it's all my money. I'm going to spend all my money. I want to do whatever I want. Me. And then I'm going to magically be different. No, you're learning habits.
Right.
And so a big thing obviously too, is just having conversations, especially if you are getting married or, or engaged. What is our finances going to look like? What do we want to do on Friday nights? And I'm not asking you to make out your whole schedule for the rest of your life, but like, what do you value?
Yep.
And having those conversations. So, you're not magically different when you get married. Shocking.
No,
I know, it's crazy.
No, I do think that is really good, because there is something about like, there is a part of you just that thinks like, oh, like if he'll just propose and like I just get the ring, then like, it'll be good and like we'll be on to the next step. And then it's like, oh, if we just do the wedding day and we just have this beautiful ceremony and we have the dress and the tux and the friends and family, then like, oh, that'll really like, kick us off into this like good path. And it's like, oh no, like, I like think that is a very valid one. I think it can seep into, I am in a new season of life with a new 4-month-old. And so
Congratulations.
thank you. And so I think that same myth seeps into it as well of like,
Mm.
oh, these things that we're dealing with pre-kids, oh, like they'll go away. Like if we have a kid, like that'll go away. It's the same like lie from the devil that's like, no, like in fact, it's likely going to exacerbate it even
Yes.
more, because now you've got an added person. So there's this added like stress, maybe, or pressure of like, oh, we want to like do better for her or him, for our child, and then, but we're still falling short, or and there's just you're running on low sleep, and there's just so many things going on, that it can exacerbate sometimes any things that you were struggling with. So I think that it's not to like scare people off and say you have to be perfect before you get
Right.
married, like because that's not realistic, right? Again, we're all flawed sinners, and you have to be perfect, the perfect wife and husband before you can become the mom and dad. And it's like, well, that's not true either. But I think what I hear you saying is like, it's not going to then like, dissolve everything either. So it's like being able to identify what you're dealing with, what you might be struggling with, and either work to, make some improvements, or say like, this is not something that's like, make or break, but it's something we want to pay attention to. And it's not going to just change because all of a sudden we know I wore a white dress, or all of a sudden I
Right.
became a mom now. Like it's not going to go away overnight.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it's just about conversations, because if there is a big something that you don't want to talk about and you think it will magically be different, one of these big milestones, probably you just need to have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that can be hard. Like that can be really
Yeah.
like vulnerable to be like, we really need to, talk through this thing. But pushing it down is only going to, yeah, it's only going to expose itself, in
Yes.
different
And
ways
I
later on.
and I can speak to those hard conversations. So, I think coming into things when sorry, I'm jumping ahead. Is that okay?
Yes,
Talking about hard
please. Yeah,
conversations.
yeah, yeah. Please, please, please.
So, again, certainly I don't have it all figured out, but I have learned some tips along the way
Yeah.
of having those hard conversations. And so just keep in mind, let's say, for example, you want to bring up money. That's a big argument thing. If there is, let's say, I don't know, your spouse has a big spending problem. Maybe this is something you've thought about for months, if not years. So you're thinking about it. You can't go to them and expect they probably haven't had the same brain download that you have on the
Right.
same subject. So go into that with grace, and then also don't come with like blazing and this and this and this and this. This is like, hey, I would love to have a conversation about this. This is how I feel. Like blah blah blah. Not pointing fingers, just asking questions is also a huge thing. Instead of like you this, you that. One of my friends is a counselor. She always says, "Help me understand," which is
Mm-hmm.
always a big thing. Help me understand. So, I think just coming into this without looking for a fight,
Mm-hmm.
coming into conversations of just, I want to understand you better. I want to get on the same page with the goal of being a team, the goal of being one. Yes, I understand it'll be frustrating, but if you have that right goal instead of like just this fuming, and then you're already setting yourself up for such a better conversation versus, when we come into arguments or these conversations, the goal isn't necessarily to win, because then
Yeah.
what do you win?
Right.
Then you just like, that's not the goal. The goal is to be on the same page.
Right.
And so if you can come into that with like, I want to better understand, and maybe it's not going to be your solution is they never shop again. That's not going to happen.
Right.
But maybe you can get to like, why don't we set aside, this is a fair amount that we decided that is great to spend on your coffee habit or your golf habit or whatever it is. We decided this is a fair amount. It doesn't matter. This is your marriage. This is your conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal is to be on the same team. I think that would definitely help aid these hard conversations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think I heard it said, I think on this podcast, it might have been season 1 or season 2, one of our guests said, and in a different context, but I think it applies beautifully even to what you're saying is like when you're putting on the boxing gloves, like you're not fighting each other, like you're fighting together, like you're fighting for your marriage. And so even in those like really tough conversations, it's like, you don't have to like, you can still put on the boxing gloves, but it's like putting on the boxing gloves to fight the issue at hand or fight the thing rather than fight, your spouse.
That's good. Sometimes, like if my husband and I get into an argument, sometimes I'll be like, "Wait, we're in the weeds. We are on the same page, but we're fighting. We're fighting like the weeds. We're fighting. We don't know we're fighting." And so, like, wait a minute. We want the same thing. Let's focus on this. Let's get back to what we're talking about. And I think sometimes just kind of taking a wait a minute, and then you realize, oh, we want the same things. This is good. We're boxing for the same things. So,
Yes.
anyways, yeah.
Absolutely. So for any women that are listening that maybe aren't married yet, that maybe are dating or, probably in that season of life, I'm curious what, there is no perfect man, right? There is no, that's what we've talked about. That's kind of been a theme of this conversation we've been having. But if you had to say, like, stake your claim on this thing, like look for this quality, look for this thing in a man, in a spouse. And again, I'm thinking, we're two women having this conversation, so not leaving the men out, but I am thinking for the women right now.
Yeah, I mean, I realize this is a Christian podcast, so maybe it sounds trite, but you have to find a man seeking the Lord because that is everything. That's your foundation. And there might be, especially in the South, men who wear a Christian t-shirt or a Christian title. But when you come up against real life stuff, as you will, is he, the author of love himself, is he looking to him for a guide on how to do this whole life thing? I think that, there's so many things, marriage is under attack, like we talked about at the very beginning. And so is there going to be a guy who put on his boxing gloves with you, like we said, and fight for the marriage, fight for each other?
Yep.
Because, and again, not even each other is everything.
Yep.
And if you want to be, this is the person I want to spend my life with, then you have to do this thing well with knowing who the author of love is and who gave us the idea of sacrifice and who gave us the idea of unconditional love. Because, I mean, the world is giving a lot of unhelpful advice. And so, yeah, I would say that. And also you have to go out and meet them, because I meet a lot of Christian singles who are like, oh, I don't know, I can't find my Boaz. Well, have you gone on dates? No. Well, have you left your house? No.
Right. Yeah.
In the wise words of Ariel the mermaid, go where the people are.
So I was going to say, it's not all on the men, right? Like, it's not all on them. So what's one thing you would say that you could be doing, that young women could be doing just individually, like for themselves, to set themselves up for marriage, for success?
Yeah. One thing I often quote is, a marriage can complement you but not complete you. Compliment with an E. So it can be a great life partner. And I love marriage. I think it's great. I think that is a beautiful union, but can't complete you. And think often, especially in Christian marriages, we kind of look to that even more so. We're like, oh, like my life will complete once I find my person, and guys and girls. And we are all flawed humans that can only be fulfilled by Jesus Christ. And to put that type of expectation on another flawed human is unfair and untrue. And it will lead to just frustration on both sides, because even the best husband, even the best wife cannot fulfill those shoes that only Jesus was made to fill. So, first, find that fulfillment in the Lord, and find your own hobbies, find your own fulfillment, like live your best life. Don't sit there and just wait around. But if you are, definitely seeking marriage, you have to introduce yourself to people. You have to get out there. You have to say hello. You have to, go to places, talk to people. And I know that's hard for my shy people. Tell your friends. I often tell singles, if this is something you're pursuing, tell your friends, I'm open to being set up. I'm open to being matchmake. Before the internet, that was the most common way that people met their spouse, is by mutual friends. And even your best friend might not even be thinking, oh, you know what? Joe in finance is a nice looking young Christian guy. Why haven't I even thought of him?
Right.
Sometimes it just creates, you have to have the ask of bringing that up. You're like, oh, you're open to be set up? Don't, mission accomplished. Let's do
Yes.
this thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. We had Bob Goff on the podcast
Love
earlier this
him.
season. We kicked off with him, and I feel like I'm coming in hot with the analogies today. But this one was from Bob, so I'm not. This is not unique to me, but it is goes off of what you were saying, and he was saying how you're not looking to find someone who is just going to be a mirror image of you, right? Who's just going to, and in your words, like complete you in that way. Like you look in the mirror and you, or you look at your spouse and you see the same reflection. Instead, you're looking to someone to compliment you. And he said you're looking to someone to on the trampoline with you, right? To launch you into like you're calling into who Jesus is calling you to be, and for you to do the same for them, for you to be on the trampoline with them. And so he was like, one thing I'm going to take away from our conversation is mirrors versus trampolines. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool how the Lord is just bringing back that theme around with you and I talking, and you saying you're not looking for someone to complete you, you're looking for someone to compliment you. I think that analogy that he talked about earlier this season speaks beautifully even to this conversation as well.
Sounds like a Bob Golf comment with the trampoline. I
Yes,
love it.
yes, absolutely. And also, I love what you're talking about setting up your friends and getting able to do that and taking some of the pressure off too. It's like we've done that for a couple of our friends as well. And we've said like, hey, there's no pressure here. Like this is an opportunity. It's an invitation. Like we're not getting our feelings hurt. And it didn't necessarily work out, but like we tried and they tried and it was, good. And sometimes it will. My parents met on a blind date. My mom's friend worked with my dad and set them up, and the rest was history. And now I'm here. So
Hey,
like
works
it
out.
worked out. Yeah. But I love that too. It's like sometimes going back to what worked in the past, it doesn't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. So
Yes,
two good pieces of advice from that part of our conversation just now.
I love that.
I think, yeah, I think I would like to end on. So you guys have had 20 years of marriage. You've gone through multiple seasons of marriage. You talked about, the toddler stage, diapers and all of that. How old are your kids now? Did you
They are
say?
now 15 and 17.
Okay, so not out of the house yet. So you're not quite empty nesters. You're in that teenage phase, and then you're, you talked about aging parents, and you're kind of in that season of marriage. So you guys, at this point, have experienced some different seasons of marriage. Do you have any practical like rhythms or anything that you and your husband have implemented that you feel like really has helped you guys just stay connected throughout, stay on the same team throughout, and continue to fight for each other in these varying seasons of life and seasons of marriage?
Yes. So, of course, what you expect me to say, having date nights, continuing to date each other because you don't just date when you're getting to know each other, you date forever
Yeah,
because we're growing, we're learning. I'm not the same person. I didn't like to garden when I was younger. That we didn't have teenagers, of course, when we were younger. There's
right.
stages of life, there's things that we grow. We have had different jobs, we've lived in different cities. And so we have grown, and what a shame it would be to not continue to get to know each other and to date and talk.
Yeah,
But also, the maybe not as common answer is something that we do every Sunday, and it just takes like 10 minutes, but it can sometimes be a total game changer. And that's just looking at our calendars and having like a setting up for the week. And that is so important, especially like before the kids are driving. Like, okay, Tuesday we got cross country practice. You pick this one up, I pick that one up. Wednesday I have this meeting, whatever. Just looking through our calendar and being on the same page, being on the same team. It's simple, it's practical, but it just avoids so much frustration. Like, oh wait, it's Wednesday and you got to get this kid and I got to get this kid, and it's so helpful. And then maybe even oh no, we don't have anyone to get our kid from school this day. And then on Sunday, I can call my mom or call for reinforcements versus 2 o'clock on a Wednesday and everyone's scrambling and screaming and it's chaos. So just sitting down and having that rhythm, if you will, of looking at our calendar has definitely helped us be on the same page and avoided frustration and anything like that. So, and then also it's like, oh, you know what? We don't have anything going on this weekend. Do we want to make plans? We haven't hung out with so-and-so. Why don't we invite them to dinner? It just helps us to be proactive too and to create what we have, what we say is important.
Yeah.
I love notes in my phone. We all have, right?
Mm-hmm.
I literally have people we like on my notes in my phone, and this is, oh, we're going to this comedian. Do we want to see if anyone wants to come with us? Sure. Let me look at people we want to hang out with more, people we want to get to know better, and it could be people who maybe don't even live in town, but we want to get it out of town this weekend, so let's maybe go visit them. Anyway, it just helps you be intentional when you write these things down and look at your calendar in advance. So
Yeah.
that's a little tip.
Well, and I think those can, mesh together well, because if you're looking at your calendar, you're getting on the same page. You're feeling like you get to set off the week with, on the same page and with as good a success rate as possible, knowing that things can happen throughout the week. Then you can also see, okay, you can intentionally plan in those moments too. Like, we haven't done a date night recently. Like, I would like to do one, Thursday at lunch. Like, can you take, lunch off, or can you take a half day off of work, or what's your meetings like that day? Or Sunday after church, can, the kids go home with coming Sunday, can the kids go home with, one of our parents, and can we do something together, or whatever the case may be. But I think even those two things can mesh well together. You're getting on the same page, creating healthy rhythms for your family. But then you're able to also create some rhythms for the two of you and be intentional is not a word, about planning things with your spouse, planning time together. So
I love that. Yeah, and I should clarify, the people we like obviously is a long list. We like a lot of people. I should probably name it people we want to hang out with more.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's just but yeah, it just helps you, be more intentional. Like, oh man, we haven't hung out with this couple in a while, or whatever it is. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, it has been a joy just talking with you and just hearing kind of the work that you're doing, and also how it, again, two worlds can mesh and collide. And I hope that there are some men and some men listening that might have found something helpful, but certainly some women too that are like, that was really cool, that was sweet. I might not be in my young 20s anymore. I might be in the throes of marriage, but that's cool about what you're doing too, is just like the wisdom that you've learned throughout the years, being able to pass that along to others. So I've enjoyed just our conversation with one another this morning. So.
Oh, you're sweet. Thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing. If you have not been to a WinShape retreat, let me be a plug that is not from you guys, that it is so worth it. It is just worth all anytime away from kids, getting babysitting, the drive, whatever it is. Like, it's such a resource that not everyone knows about, and it is a crying shame, because everyone needs to go to WinShape Marriage at least once, and if they can, more than once. It's such a wonderful place, magical, holy ground, as Truett's wife once said.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. I tell a lot of my friends all the time, I'm like, I know it sounds like, cliche coming from me, but I would actually pay like my money. Like, I would take money out of my, budget for something like this. So it is really cool. And it's really just cool how the Lord has created an environment for couples to come and learn and be blessed, and just to have time together and time apart. So yeah, we love our WinShape retreats, and I'm glad that you guys have found those to be helpful and beneficial for your marriage too. So
10 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Katie, it was a joy speaking with you this morning. We can link in the description of this podcast, maybe to your website or your socials. Where could people find you if they wanted to just follow along with what you're doing?
Sure. My favorite places to hang out are Instagram and TikTok. Okay. And they're both the name of my website, which is just Katie Bulmer Life. Bulmer is like Fulmer with a B. So Katie Bulmer Life, that is my both my handles and my website. So that's how you can find me everywhere.
Perfect. Well, we will make sure to link that. And we appreciate your time this morning, and thank you so much. And we can't wait to talk again with you soon.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Talk soon. We hope that conversation blesses your marriage. If you're loving the WinShape Marriage podcast, will you please take a moment to make sure you're subscribed? You may be a faithful listener and not realized you aren't subscribed. It really helps us out. Also, if you've enjoyed these conversations and they've impacted your marriage, please rate and review this podcast. One listener said, "Thanks so much for pouring into couples with godly wisdom and practical equipping."